Hello everyone, how are you today? My name is Michaela Valletta, also known as the Body Scientist. And in case you are unfamiliar with me, I have a background in exercise and sports science, nutrition science. I'm a sports nutritionist, but I have a holistic approach to it. And I have dedicated my life to studying all the ways that we can take our body to its highest level, okay? And so I'm live on my IG page. If you're watching me on IG, you probably already know me, but I'll be saving this, reposting it to my YouTube channel, The Body Scientist 81. And so just had to give an intro just in case you don't know me, and you could be new. Also, a bit about my background. Before I got into exercise and sports science, I was a biotechnology major, right? And I was really into studying like genetics and like microbiology, the world of infectious disease, right? Those are like my two big interests. And I wanted to become a scientist. I wanted to get a PhD in biotechnology, and I wanted to research cures for genetic diseases, right? That was originally my goal. Then 2 years in, I switched to exercise and sports science and nutrition science, right? I felt like I learned a lot about how the body works. When you're understanding anatomy, kinesiology, physiology, muscle physiology, the energetics of movement, understanding biomechanics, right? So understanding all of that, understanding how disease and exercise even interact. Like if somebody is diabetic, or somebody has a heart issue, or somebody has cancer, or somebody has injured knees, bad back, there are things that you have to understand how exercise affects that, because exercise can be medicine for that person, but it can also be detrimental. It's not the right thing, right? So there's that area. And then there's the area of nutrition, which people have no idea how important nutrition is, okay? I feel like if you really want to understand how the body works for real and understand, you know, how it functions internally on a cellular level, understanding nutrition is critical. Nutrition is a lot of biochemistry, okay? So with that being said, there's so many things I want to talk about. So with that being said, okay, I want to talk about, okay, so wait, hold on, sorry, before I get into that. So yes, so you have that study of nutrition, right? But then in graduate school, the graduate program that I went to for applied physiology and nutrition, Columbia University in New York City Teachers College, was the only school in the country, okay? Listen to this. This is very, very important, because I know people hear all these different things about nutrition. People get confused about what to believe. My graduate program was the only program in the country that did not take money from the food industry. Please understand that everybody who is educated in nutrition and dietetics in the U.S., they are in programs that are funded by the food companies, just like the doctors are in medical programs that are funded by the drug companies, okay? This is critical. The drug companies and the food companies are the same people, all right? The food companies and the drug companies are the same people. So with that being said, there's a lot of nutrition propaganda. Almost everything that people are being told is good for them, the opposite is true, okay? Like being told cholesterol is bad for you, that's not true. You can't eat enough cholesterol. Kids need a whole bunch of cholesterol. When people are getting older, the aging population needs a whole bunch of cholesterol. Everybody does, okay? It's not true that saturated fat is bad for you. It's not true that red meat is bad for you. It's not true that organ meats are bad for you. And it's not true that you need to eat salad, okay? And drink green juice. And eat low-fat this, okay? So it's not true that canola oil is good for you, okay? But tallow isn't. So there's a lot of things, okay? But there's vested interest, because food companies get to sell you things like fake butter, okay? And fake, don't use the lard, use Crisco. Don't use the butter, use margarine, okay? Don't eat meat, eat Beyond Burger. They make a substitute for everything. They taint things, okay? It's more complex than most people realize. So if those food companies are educating the dietitians and the nutritionists A lot of stuff is flawed, okay? So I'm not going to get too much into that because that's not what this video is about, right? And I talk about that in other videos that I have, but I just need to give that brief intro of where I'm coming from as a nutritionist. I do have a background in academia. I have taken the biochemistries, organic chemistries, the physiologies. My glasses are all dirty. The physiologies, you know, all of that, right? Nutrition students have to take the same biochemistry as medical students, okay? My professor at Columbia that taught nutritional biochemistry, which I had to take on an undergrad and a graduate level, he also taught the medical students, okay? I remember being on the train in New York, and a pharmacist thought I was a pharmacology student because we all study biochemistry. We just learn it from different angles, okay? So I have that background, but then I'm also aware of that graduate program also made me aware of the politics and scientific research, okay? So there's a lot of good research that doesn't get published because they don't want people to know. They don't want that to get out. A lot of the so-called research that's telling you that a vegan diet is good and yada, yada, yada is coming from tainted research. Most people are quoting studies that they don't even read, okay? Or they don't even have the background to understand. Because sometimes you have to have a background in that area to even understand what you're reading, okay? So with that whole disclaimer, what I want to talk about is nature and nurture, okay? I want to talk about nature and nurture. This is what creates a healthy body, a healthy person, longevity. It's not just your genes, okay? And it's not just what you do. It's both, all right? So what makes a person, see, I told you I was interested in genetics. When it comes to genetics, we're given a genome from our parents. But what actually becomes expressed, okay? What actually becomes expressed depends on what we're exposed to, okay? And that means, you know, that it depends on our environment. And that includes what we're eating, the air we're breathing, all those things, right? And so our genes are turned on and off by things. Our genes can be mutated by things. Like they're called mutagens or carcinogens. Carcinogens are chemicals that mutate the genes to code for cancer. Mutagens are things that mutate the genes. Mutagens can cause cancer or not, but they mutate your genes, right? And cancer comes from genetic mutations, all right? So there's certain vitamins and minerals and stuff that influence the expression of your genes, all right? And so when it comes to children, okay, when it comes to babies and children, from the womb to baby to child to the whole developmental years, nutrition is critical because that's when you are developing. If you are not given what your, you know, optimal nutrition at that time, you may not reach your full development, okay? So maybe your genes said you were supposed to be 6'2", but you end up being 5'6", because you didn't have enough of certain nutrients. Okay, it's not just protein, it's a lot of things, right? Maybe, you know, you have really bad skin. Maybe you ended up being fat. And it wasn't because it was just genetic. Maybe, you know, in the womb, your mother had gestational diabetes and then you were given a lot of sugar as a kid. And, you know, you weren't given the right nutrients. So a lot of metabolic issues and things that people have has a lot to do with the environment, what they were consuming. It's not, when people say things like, high blood pressure runs in my family, or, you know, this runs in my family. It's not really that it's the habits that run in your family, because certain habits that affect the DNA. So, okay, let me explain this. Because we all have different genetics, right? We all have different genomes, and so you can have 3 people with the same bad habit, and the outcome is different because the outcome is different because their genetics are different. So for an example, you could have 3 people that drink soda, right? 3 people that drink tons of soda, they drink too much soda. One person could end up being fat because of it, right? Another person could end up with really bad skin. Like they have like horrible acne and like all this stuff going on with their skin, but they're like skinny and like sunken with really bad skin, okay? And another person could end up with cancer, okay? Now, because drinking a whole bunch of soda is not good for you. Now, how it expresses in a person depends on that person's DNA, and other factors, but I'm just saying those bad habits interact with your DNA. But for sure, if you're consuming, if you're not getting enough of certain nutrients, you're eating too many inflammatory foods, there's going to be negative consequences. It just depends on, what it is depends on each individual, right? And their genetics. So this is the reason why, it's so, when you look at, one thing that's important that I'm going to say, when I do research, I research from a lot of different perspectives. And when it comes to health and when it comes to nutrition, I look at things from a biochemical perspective. Okay, nutrition is a bunch of biochemistry, so we could do nutritional biochemistry perspective. I look at it from a historical perspective, an anthropological perspective, an archaeological perspective, an epidemiological perspective, a biological perspective. So looking at, spiritual, all of that, all of those things, right? Looking around the world. I don't just research America. Look around the world. Who are the healthiest populations? What are they eating? Who are the sickest populations? What are they eating? Okay? And who are the people with the strongest bodies, the tall, strong, healthy people? And looking at certain habits, okay? And that's a lot of, epidemiology, looking around the world and stuff. Thank you. And so there's a lot so currently, right? Currently, we are the sickest we've ever been, okay? I think humankind as a whole, okay, as a general statement, Americans for sure, all right, are the sickest that we've ever been since we've been on this planet. So it's not true that we're living longer now and are healthier now than we ever were. That's not true. A lot of times when people say that, they'll compare it to a certain time and place where there was famine and, people living in unsanitary conditions and disease was running rampant. They might be talking about, so they'll look at those certain pockets. But when you look back, okay, especially when, first of all, you look at, and there are primary documents, okay, of the colonizers who came to the Americas, okay, who wrote about the condition of the indigenous people, how strong they were, the type of endurance they had, the fact that they saw 90-year-old men who were only slightly weaker than men who were 18, how they saw women swimming across lakes with in rivers and stuff with babies on their back and climbing up stuff, like seeing people chasing deer for miles. And they wrote about this, so you have that. Then there's this book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. This is a book that if you read no other book in life when it comes to optimal nutrition, traditional foods, you want the proof of healthy populations who ate tons of raw dairy, lard, butter, tallow, seafood, blood, organ meats, okay, and could see better than any of us, okay, had, amazing bone structure, we're giving birth to like 10 babies with no help, like it was nothing, okay? When you see, and most of us know people just not too long ago who were having 12, 13, 14 babies like it was nothing. Now women have 1, 2, 3, and it's like, it's about to take the life out of them. It wasn't always that way, okay? So this book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, all right, by Weston A. Price. This book is very important, the research that he did. This book is probably also about 400 pages. He went around the world, okay? This is in the 1930s. He was an American dentist who went around the world. He actually thought that he was going to find healthy plant-eating populations, right? So he went to remote villages and stuff in the world, okay? He went to parts of Africa, he went to parts of Europe, he went to parts of South America, he went to parts of the Polynesian Islands, parts of Asia, okay, for 10 years. And he was looking at the condition of the people when they were eating their traditional foods, and depending on where he was, and looking at the condition of them just one generation after eating the white man's foods, okay? He was a white man himself. The white man's foods is what the white man's foods was flour, sugar, and vegetable oil, right? So he looked and started seeing how, you know, they were having all these different health issues. Just one generation after, he took photos of their faces, their bone structure, their dental, their teeth. They're looking at their eyesight, a bunch of different things. And he also took their traditional foods and took it to the laboratory, right? To see, okay, they're eating liver, they're eating eyeballs, they're eating hearts, you know, they're eating all these eggs, they're eating fish eggs, they're consuming raw, you know, the Maasai, you know, are living off of raw milk, okay, and raw cow's blood. And before before conception, one thing he found everywhere he went, every culture had pre-fertility foods that men and women both consumed prior to conception for about 6 months prior, okay? So they already had good nutrition, but still they put extra. And all those sacred foods were animal foods, okay? So you had the Maasai who, you know, the women were on a diet, and it was in the spring when the cows were eating the rapidly growing grass, because when the cows are eating the rapidly growing grass, their buttermilk, their milk fat is even more potent, okay, with fat-soluble vitamins that are activators, which is vitamins K, D, and A, which is kind of easy to remember because all of the fat-soluble vitamins, there are vitamins K, E, D, and A, and that is the last part of my name, keto. So it's always easy to remember fat-soluble vitamins. Maybe that's why I love talking about fat so much. But those vitamins are really, really essential. Okay, people, you know, with this COVID stuff, people talk about vitamin D a lot. Vitamin A is just as important as vitamin D, even when it comes to your immune system. Vitamin A plays a huge role when it comes to the functioning of your immune system, okay? And so in vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin K is super important. He found that their foods that they were eating were so much more potent than what we were told we even needed in the U.S., okay? And okay, so so I was reading a question that somebody wrote. So he found that the you know, like, so you over here we have the RDAs, which is the recommended dietary allowance, right? And I remember in graduate school learning that those numbers are so inaccurate. So the RDA is, when you look at like food, it'll tell you what percentage of vitamin A, the RDA, which is what percentage. There's a recommended dietary allowance, which is what they recommend, how much of each nutrient we need each day, right? So they'll say you need this percentage of vitamin A every day, this many units of vitamin C a day. And that's what is told to the general public of what you need to be healthy. But I remember when I was in graduate school, I learned that those numbers are very flawed, because the way that they got those numbers, right, is because there was some study where there were some really sick patients in the hospital, like people who were like on their like borderline death, okay? And they studied to see what is the minimum of certain nutrients that they need just to stay alive, okay? Not to be healthy and thrive, just to stay alive, just not to fall on the other side of death, the other side, okay? So that's where these recommended dietary allowances come from. So we need a lot more vitamin D, a lot more vitamin A, a lot more vitamin K, a lot more of a lot of this stuff than what we're being told, okay? Even salt is super important, but not table salt, okay? Not sodium chloride, but like sea salt that has other minerals. But salt is super important, but we're told salt is bad. So there's a lot of misinformation, okay? I don't even want to use the word misinformation nowadays, because like I'm just triggered by that word right now in this C era. But this book, the research he did is very, very important. And when you start seeing traditional foods, and this is what I study. I'm not going to talk for like 2 hours trying to prove certain things to you all, because this is what I've been researching my entire life. And I think that if you check out the books that I recommend, I post a lot of books on my IG page. So if you're on YouTube and you don't follow me on IG, definitely follow me there and look at the books that I post, because I'm very critical about the books that I post and who wrote them and what, you know, the type of research, you know, that's being done. But they will help. So to get back on track, basically, okay, most people, you know, are not. So when you think about currently, you know, people have to I was going to say most people aren't monitoring their nutrient stores, right? Most people don't really know what their vitamin A levels are, what their thyroid hormone levels are, where the thyroid hormones are at, you know, what their vitamin D, their vitamin K, their iron. Most people aren't monitoring that, okay? And I'm sorry, they're not monitoring that. And traditional people who are eating traditional foods didn't have to, I mean, they weren't able to monitor that, right? But they were eating their traditional foods. Nowadays, people aren't eating these foods, right? And when you're just eating, also when you're just eating regular, like not only is there are a lot of propaganda about what's healthy, but then of course we all know that the food supply, you know, the nutrients are stripped a lot of times in a lot of the food, especially when you're just eating like regular stuff, you're eating processed food, stuff like that. But nature and nurture, okay, back to the topic. My brain's in so many places. There'd be like so many things I want to say, it's like coming out of a funnel, right? It is what you consume, right? It is what you put on your skin. I know for me, I always say this, you know, when I was 18, okay, I told myself, I'm going to do, you know, everything I can to stay as healthy as I can for as long as I can, to look as good as I can for as long as I can. But it's not just about looks, it's about health, right? It's about function. It's about feeling good and not being in pain every day or having this problem and that problem. So many people have so many different issues going on, and they're living with, you know, all these discomforts, right? Knee problems, back problem, this problem, digestive problems, you know, it's just, that's not like some inevitable thing, right? I'm very much on the side of prevention, okay? So understanding that what you're putting on your skin for years, okay, what you're putting in your body, in your gut, you know, for me, you know, like, you know, maintaining, you know, my microbiomes, okay, we have ecosystems in our body, on our skin, right? And when we're consuming a lot of antibiotics and herbicides and pesticides and sugar and things that are disrupting that, you know, that causes, it messes with our immune system. I feel like I'm going so many different places because it's like, before I did this video, I had all these things I wanted to say, and I was like, I should probably take notes. And I was like, no, I'm not going to take notes. I'm just going to talk off the top of my head. And now as I'm talking, it's like all these different things keep jumping around. I'm like, I hope I'm making sense, right? But this is also why, as a trainer, you know, my approach to fitness is not bodybuilding, okay? So bodybuilders train for a look, okay? I believe in training like an athlete, okay? Athletes don't train like bodybuilders do. Athletes and bodybuilders lift weights, but the way they approach it, okay, the type of exercises they do are different. The reps and all that is different. You know, bodybuilders tend to isolate muscles. Athletes don't do that. But if you want to run faster, if you want to jump higher, if you're going to sprint and you don't want to tear your hamstrings, okay, you know, you need to strength train. And as you age, especially after the age of 30, according to the textbook, it's 25, but I'll give it some years and say 30, right? You're on a state of breakdown, right? So from like birth to 25, and the 25 maybe adds, this is textbook, I would say the 25 probably applies more to men, because men tend to mature a little bit slower, even with the growing, right? But textbook, from 0 to 25, we're in a state of building, right? And then from 25 on, we're in a state of decline. And I'm going to push that number to 30, okay? We're in a state of decline. Now, how quickly we decline depends on what we did before 30 and what we do after, right? So when I say a state of decline, I mean like our muscles, for example. We, textbook, are experiencing about 2% loss of muscle every year after the age of 30. That's important because muscle is the metabolic tissue of our body, okay? You want to increase your metabolism, the muscle. Muscle tissue is the metabolic tissue of our body. That's why if somebody wants to lose fat and they feel like, oh, I'm too fat, I'm going to start with cardio, which there's different kinds of cardio, anaerobic and aerobic. Most people, when they talk about cardio, they're talking about aerobic, which is like doing something at moderate intensity for 20-30 minutes. And people think that I'm going to do that, not understanding that you need to strength train, okay? Because the more you increase your lean body mass, your muscle, okay, the faster your metabolism will be. The more calories you burn, even when you're not doing anything. That's why you see somebody like a Tiana Taylor or something, they can eat whatever, do whatever, because she's a muscle burning machine. She's lean. She has way more muscle than body fat. You know, so like the way that the way your metabolism works depends on what percentage of fat you have on your body to begin with, how much muscle you have to begin with. Okay, metabolism is complicated. It has to do with that, and it also has to do with what you eat and when you ate it, what you did today, what you're going to do today. All those things affect your metabolism. Okay, but the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn, even when you're doing nothing. Okay, the more nutrients, fat, everything. Okay. Oh, see, thank you, lady. So you say you know everything about metabolism because you watch my videos on it. Yep, thank you. And you know what? You guys should watch my other videos, because sometimes I'm like, I don't want to repeat myself because I said this in other videos, but I do have a video on metabolism, right? And body fat percentage, okay? The BMI, totally inaccurate, okay? Like, I have a video on that too, the BMI and body fat percentage. The BMI is a number that holds no weight at all, okay? No weight, no weight, no weight, no weight. Doctors and dietitians use the BMI all the time. I'm not going to get into that right now because I'm start going off a whole nother tangent. But just understand, it's the body fat percentage that matters. Because again, muscle is metabolic tissue. Muscle also helps move bone, and it's a shock absorber. So people that have like, oh, my knees hurt, you need to strengthen the muscles around your knees. Oh, my back hurts, you need to strengthen the muscles around your back. Okay? So muscles help to absorb shock from bones. This is the reason why we want to have strong muscles, even as we age, okay? You don't want to be losing muscle. It decreases your metabolism, slows down your metabolism, will lead to an increase of stress on your joints, okay? Also, muscle moves bone. That's another reason why we don't want to lose muscle, because then you start to lose function. That's why when you see people who have diseases where, and there's so much stuff in my brain, I can't recall it right now, but there is, I forget the name of the disease, where it's like muscle wasting. But when people have muscle wasting diseases, they lose function because muscle moves bone. In order for me to do this, my bicep contracted. In order for me to do that, my shoulder muscles contracted, okay? So you want to maintain your muscles, and also muscle is what gives you shape, okay? That's what gives you shape. You lose too much muscle, you start looking saggy and flabby, okay? The muscle holds things together and gives shape. So you want to do exercises that are anabolic. And anabolic means that it's building muscle and bone. Catabolic means it's breaking down your muscle and bone. So jogging a lot. People that's like, oh, I'm going to go jog for 6 miles every day. That's catabolic, okay? It will cause you to burn muscle. But if you sprint, it'll cause you to build muscle and burn fat. When you do the running for miles, you will lose fat and lose muscle. And I have a whole videos where I talk about that, so I won't get too much into it. So somebody asked me, okay, so the thing with migraines, I used to have an issue with migraines. When I was in, actually in the seventh, well, actually it wasn't migraines, let me not say that, because the more that I study, science, I like to be correct, migraines aren't necessarily the same as having a headache problem, but I know I had a headache problem, and there's times I've had bad headaches. I don't know if they were actually migraines, because migraines are a specific thing, and I've never been diagnosed, but I don't know. I just know that I had a headache problem, and when I was in, I don't know, maybe the 7th grade, okay, I was addicted to Advil and didn't realize it. And I think it was my twin brother or something that noticed, like, I was getting headaches every day, so I took Advil, Advil, right? The doctor, that's when I learned about something called the rebound effect, that when you take medicine for a headache, okay, if you don't, very quickly you become addicted to it. You don't realize it. So what happens is, if you don't take the ibuprofen or the Advil or whatever, you actually get a headache, okay? So when I learned that, it's called the rebound effect. I remember learning that in the 7th grade, and then I thought, oh no, So from that point on, I've been very aware of not taking headache medicine. But at that point on, up until I was in college, I really would pay a lot of attention to what could be causing this, like, so the more that I learned, and it's like sometimes it's irritants in the food. Some people are consuming foods that have MSG. I'm going to do a video about MSG because MSG is highly toxic and it's in more things than you realize, and it's not labeled as MSG. There's a lot of different names for MSG, like texturized protein is another name for MSG. Soy protein isolate, natural flavors, okay? Those are all another word for MSG. So it could be irritants in the food that you're eating. Also, it could be that you didn't eat enough. It could be that you didn't get enough sleep, or it could be that you're dehydrated. And dehydration has nothing to do with water. It's not about, oh, you didn't drink enough water. That's not, you can drink too much water and cause yourself to be dehydrated. Dehydration has to do with electrolytes, not just water. I have often called a flavor enhancer. Yes, that's MSG. I have a video about hydration as well, okay? So you can understand that, because hydration is not about drink water. It's about electrolytes. If you go to the hospital because you're dehydrated, they're not going to give you water, okay? They're going to give you a saline fluid that has electrolytes in it. So if you're dehydrated because you drank too much alcohol, if you're dehydrated because you've been out in the sun sweating, or you're in the gym working out, you don't want to drink water. You want to drink something that has a good balance of potassium and sodium and some carbohydrates. Okay, also has to do with your blood sugar. So coconut water is excellent, watermelon juice is excellent, or some other diluted fresh juice if you can't get those two things. Anti-inflammatory foods help your migraine. Yeah, because migraines are an inflammation problem. And inflammation is like the root of all disease, okay? Of a lot of things. Inflammation. Not mucus, like some people say. That's not true, okay? Mucus is eliminating stuff, okay? It's not the root of all disease. Inflammation, yes. So yeah, with the headaches, I think you have to look at, when I work with clients, I look more in depth about what's going on. I can give them specific advice, but I would say look at those things. I know that's what I do. When I get headaches, like I had a headache this weekend, I don't get them too much anymore, but I'm like, did I not get enough sleep? Sometimes I didn't get enough sleep for the past couple of days. Sometimes I realize I'm dehydrated because I drink my caffeinated tea every morning, my yerba mate. Maybe it was a day where I drank that, and maybe I had a drink that day later in the day or something, and then I'm thinking like, or yesterday, and then I might realize, what, I haven't had enough hydrating things. I feel like I'm dehydrated. So I'm thinking about what I've done, what I've consumed. I might be dehydrated, So those are the things that I look at. So you have to analyze that for yourself and get to see. Something else somebody asked me. I don't see it. Okay. And to me, if I do need to use something for pain, I try to use, one thing that I've discovered recently, which is so good, is cannabis oil, okay? I've used it, I have videos where I talk about that for a lot of different painful situations, my back, that I was completely debilitated from this car accident. I wasn't debilitated, but I was in so much pain. Just a bunch of stuff that I've used it for, myself and my clients, right? And I do have YouTube videos where I'm talking about that. But the reason why I like using cannabis for pain is because it actually helps you heal, okay? Like if you're using it topically for something that happened, like an acute injury, maybe or your skin got broken, maybe you got burned or cut, it helps to prevent infections, helps it to heal. But also taking internally for pain, it also helps. So it's something that you don't have to take for a long time. It actually helps the body heals. When you take the pain medications, it actually prevents your body from healing. They're called COX-2 inhibitors. They inhibit the COX-2 enzyme, and they inhibit the COX-2 enzyme, which helps your body heal, right? So it inhibits that, and then numbs the pain, and it's just a problem. Cannabis oil is amazing. I've been taking black seed oil and vitamins daily. Cannabis is anti-inflammatory as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, cannabis is. Cannabis is very anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, antiviral, antibacterial, and it actually helps you heal. Somebody else asked about pre-diabetes. What are the two things that you would advise for people with pre-diabetes? So Two things that I would advise to people is three things. I'm gonna give you three things. One thing, you probably have very low vitamin D, okay? So get your vitamin D levels checked. I'm almost sure, right? You want it to be at no less than 50 nanograms per milliliter, okay? Cannabis oil does contain THC, and I will come back to that in a second. When I'm done with this diabetes question, I'll go back to that. And if I forget, just remind me. So, what am I trying to say? That, yeah, vitamin D deficiencies is seriously linked to diabetes, okay? And hypertension and upper respiratory tract infections, asthma, all those things, right? So if your vitamin D levels are low, and even maybe before you even get them checked, I don't know, because maybe you can't get them checked soon. Regardless, and I think they probably are low, you want to take cod liver oil, right? Fermented cod liver oil. You want to consume foods that are high in vitamin D and vitamin A, right? So those foods are foods like liver, a lot of people don't like liver. Okay, I don't like liver. So, but if you can eat, there's like liver pates. If you're somebody who likes, some people don't mind eating liver. So if you like liver, if you can eat liver, right? If not, other foods, cod liver oil, like I said, super important. I would take a high dose of that. Grass-fed butter. Grass-fed butter, okay, is a very good source of vitamin D. And I'm telling you this kind of in a level of potency. So butter doesn't have as much as cod liver oil in liver. But grass-fed butter and ghee. Ghee is very potent because ghee is just the butter fat. So it's very potent in vitamin D and vitamin A. You can cook with it. You cannot eat enough butter. Eat as much butter as you want. Cook a bunch of fish, make a butter sauce, you know. If you eat seafood, make buttery things. Like, just use a lot of butter. Cook eggs, use a lot of butter. Butter, okay? And also what's high in vitamin D is fish eggs. I think shellfish, and also pork fat, okay? Now, pork fat is very, very high in vitamin D. Again, there's something that tells us not to eat, or it's so bad, but that's not true. Especially if you're getting it from, I'm talking about particularly from farms. When I'm talking about food, I'm never talking about from the commercial food industry. I'm never talking about from the commercial food industry. I'm talking about from a farm. Okay, those healthy pigs are have very healthy fats. And so that's number one. You want to get your vitamin D up. Another thing, you want to eat a lot more fat, because when people don't eat enough fat, they crave sugar, okay? And when you eat a lot of fat, it makes you not crave sugar, okay? Also, when you consume fat, it helps when you consume it with sugar, right? So, for example, I don't eat fruit a lot. I eat fruit when, like in the summer when I'm really, really hot. Like I could be outside really hot and sweating. I'll eat fruit then. That's like the only time I really eat fruit. But when I eat fruit, I always feel like I need something fatty. It makes me hungry or something, right? So, but what I do every day, I make shakes, right? With raw milk, I put some kefir in it, and I put some fruit. Like today, I made it with papaya. So I put vanilla kefir, raw milk, and egg yolk, okay? Because that's also a good source of vitamin D. I'm always trying to keep my vitamin D levels up myself. A banana and some frozen papaya. And that was the shake that I consumed. So the sugar from the fruit, or sometimes I use, strawberries or tropical fruit, whatever, right? The fat that's accompanying the sugar prevents your blood sugar levels from spiking too quickly. Because this is the problem with when people are pre-diabetic, diabetic, or the sugar issue. It has to do with your blood sugar levels spiking too quickly, and that's what starts to cause insulin resistance and stuff. So if you consume, when you're eating something sweet, like if you're going to eat a cookie, drink some milk, preferably raw milk, of course, but full fat milk. Or you're going to eat this fruit, maybe eat it with some cream, some yogurt, some cheese. Combining it with the protein and the fat will prevent your blood sugar levels from spiking so quickly. It'll also help you to absorb more nutrients from that food. And I have a video where I talk about sugar cravings, and that's a good video to watch, right? And But I don't know if you're actually craving sugar. Some people don't realize how much sugar they're eating, but you definitely want to use that. The third thing, and I'll move on, is work on your microbiome. Take probiotics, because if you're somebody who does crave sugar, people who crave sugar have an imbalance of bacteria in their gut. And most people have an imbalance of bacteria in their gut unless they're like conscious of it and they're eating fermented foods all the time and they're staying away from antibiotics, and most people have an imbalance. So the bad bacteria in the gut cause you to crave sugar. They secrete hormones that cause you to crave sugar. And so like if somebody has an imbalance, it's almost like no matter what they do to try to stop themselves from like craving sugar, they can't, because this bad bacteria in your gut secretes hormones that affects your brain and just makes you crave it. Okay, so those are the 3 things I would say. Liver and onions or brown gravy is the bomb. Yeah, if you like that, I wish I could eat that. I would be eating that. I would eat it at least once a week. It's a very, very potent source of vitamin D, vitamin A, iron, zinc, vitamin C. Liver has about like, I don't know the right number. I don't know if it's 10 times or 50 times. It's somewhere in between 10 and 50 times the amount of vitamin C as the most potent fruit or vegetable, okay? So all these things too that people talk about with COVID, the vitamin C, the vitamin D, the zinc, liver, the highest source of all those things, right? Okay, yes, cancer survivor. Congratulations. And you've been chemo-free since 2013, that's great. And you go yearly for checkups and bone density test. Your bone density test was off. It was a vitamin D deficiency. You've been trying to get in the sun more and eating, fish. Vitamin D deficiencies, a good source of probiotics. Definitely eat fermented foods. I have videos about that. Definitely eat fermented foods. And the brand I like is Garden of Life. There are people who, don't like them because I think they were bought by Nestle. But I've had really good good results from using Garden of Life and with my clients. And I have a video where I recommend supplements. And the supplements that I recommend in that video, I'm talking about cod liver oil, I'm talking about the probiotics, and I'm talking about desiccated organ pills. And so if you watch that video, I get into that. But Garden of Life is what I would recommend. And vitamin D deficiencies are also linked to cancer as well, okay? Prostate cancers, all kinds of cancers, vitamin D deficiency. Asthma, vitamin D deficiency. Diabetes, hypertension, preterm labor, all those things, there's so much research that's connected to vitamin D deficiencies. It's so critical. And in terms of getting it from the sun, I have videos where I talk about vitamin D. But the more melanated somebody is, the harder it is, okay? So some people it's much easier. If you're fairer skin, you could be in the sun for 30 minutes and you're good. But the more melanin you have, the more you need to, so you might need to be in the sun for 2-3 hours, and you have to be in the sun from like 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. during the hottest time of the day. And you have to have as much of your skin exposed as possible, because each patch of skin only makes a certain amount of vitamin D and then it's done, right? So if you only have like your forearms exposed, your face, and your shins, because you got on a t-shirt and some shorts and some sneakers, that's not enough skin exposure to make enough vitamin D, especially if you're melanated. And most people are in the office, they're in their car. That's one reason why I like living in the city, because I can walk around. And because a lot of times I'm working during the day, like in the summer, I have to make a point, or I'm someplace warm, I have to make a point to try to get outside for at least 2 hours. And then, like, if I'm someplace where you're driving all the time, then you be in the car. So that's the good thing about being in the city. I'm like, okay, let me try to run some errands. Let me try to walk around just so I can get some sun on my skin. It's like you have to make a real concerted effort. Most people are not getting enough sun. Even people who live in Florida and the Caribbean, they'd be too covered up. They're inside, they're behind glass. But the sun is super important. And also, if you live north of Atlanta, you can't get vitamin D from the sun all year round. It's only from like April to like October or September or something like that, and then you can't. So that's why getting it from the food is critical. Everybody should be taking cod liver oil. Everybody I know that's a certain age, no matter where they come from in the world, they were given cod liver oil as a kid. So that's critical. Yep, that's good. Yeah, the religious women who dress like the religious women who wear a lot of clothes, they're very vitamin D deficient. They're Muslim countries where the women are covered up. A lot of babies are born severely vitamin D deficient with rickets, and even in this country, a lot of babies are born severely vitamin D deficient. Okay, which is setting up for a whole lot of health problems. So yeah, I think that I sound older than I look. How old do you think I am? Somebody said I sound older than I look. I want you to tell me how old you think I am. Yogurt is a good source of probiotics. You want to get plain yogurt that doesn't have sugar in it, okay? To really get the most potent. Sometimes, like when I was talking about kefir, and I've been using kefir a lot lately. A lot of times I get plain kefir, but every now and then I'll get a kefir that's like, I had a guava kefir, and right now I have a vanilla kefir. So every now and then I'll get a kefir, because when you have it with that, then it has a little bit of sugar in it. But plain yogurt, good full fat yogurt. You said you think I'm 30? I'm not 30. I'm 40. 40. Team 1981. I was born the same year as Beyonce, Serena Williams, Alicia Keys, Megan Good, Keisha Cole. We were all born 1981. That's what makes me not feel old, but yeah. What about collagen? Collagen is really important. Collagen is really important. The best source of it is going to be bone broth, right? So it's good to try, and I want to do better with this. This is another thing that's a part of my recipe for aging well, is and especially when it comes to your immune system, your gut health, skin care, okay, collagen, and bone broth is super essential. And there's no vegan substitute for bone broth, okay? There's no vegetables that can provide the medicine that is in bone broth, and it's critical for your skin, and your joints. If people have knee problems, their knees hurt, you want broth and collagen. So yeah, you want to try to get it from broth as much as possible. I use a powdered collagen actually that I put in my shakes, and I make Jello out of. Okay, if you have Jello is actually one of my favorite desserts, and I didn't eat it from the time I was a kid. And you're eating that packet Jello, which is not good. But lately I've been making my own Jello with the gelatin powder. I should have brought it so I could show you, but it's in my kitchen. But I'll put a picture of it up here, because it's not every brand makes a good quality one, and I forget the name of the brand that I use. I can't remember, but I will post it on here. But yeah, I make my own Jello with the gelatin powder and fruit juice, right? So I'll get Jamaica. I get Jamaica is a Mexican drink, right? Or tamarindo, or some lemonade. I don't know, whatever kind of juice you want. You could do grape, whatever, but good. But I use a good quality juice. The collagen, make the Jello, and then I like to put whipped cream, because the whipped cream, oh my god, so good. So that's a healthy dessert, okay? Not the Jello packets with the red dye number 9 and all this processed chemical crap, but you get real good, real juice, collagen, and water, and you can make Jello. And so those are ways to get collagen. Yeah, I think marine collagen is something that's made by the food industry. When you say marine collagen, what do you mean? You mean collagen from fish? Do I like sea moss? I haven't found, I can't say I'm swayed or convinced about sea moss. I'm not going to discredit it either. I haven't come across anything that to me substantiates the claims, and maybe it's just because I haven't come across it yet. If anybody has any of this information, please send it to me. But whenever I see people talking about sea moss, I just kind of see them with like a generic chart of this is what it's good for. But I've never seen proof of that, or I've never seen, cultures that were using. When I say traditional foods, I don't see sea moss anywhere in there. So I'm kind of I don't know about sea moss, but I will say that foods from the sea are really important. They're good sources of iodine. And I'm going to assume that sea moss probably is high in iodine, just like seafood. And iodine is super important, especially for our thyroid. So if anybody has anything they want to send me on sea moss, that's not just a person just saying or showing like a, yeah, but, so I don't really have a strong opinion about sea moss. Yeah, so I think I've been talking long enough, and whatever I forgot to say, because every single time I do a video, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to say this and this and this and that. Then I have to put it in my next video. Definitely check out my videos on my YouTube page, The Body Scientist 81, because I have videos from years back, and all of them aren't on Instagram. Sometimes I do post, I'll go back to YouTube and we'll repost them here, but they're not all on here. And the people on YouTube, if you don't follow me on IG, be sure to follow me there, because I post books and things on IG that I don't post on YouTube. And you said that you tried sea moss and your reproductive organs improved and your mood was amazing. Okay. You can send me that brand to my inbox. I actually have some sea moss in my refrigerator, actually, that I got from the farmer's market. Well, it's an Amish Russian farmer's place in Chicago where I get my raw milk. They have, small batch sea moss. I actually got it, forgot, it's been in my refrigerator, haven't used it yet, because I want to try it. I feel like I've had it before in New York, but still trying to research it, but I will try it. And thank you for that recommendation. So yeah, so I'm gonna leave this here. I just want to say that I can't wait to delete. I can't wait to block this person, but I'm taking a screenshot so I can remember who. Okay, so I think I said what I need to say. Basically, nature and nurture. Okay, so what we become, and how our genetics, how our genes are expressed, okay, has everything to do with, what we're given and what we do with it, our environment, okay? Somebody could be given the genes, athletic genes, but they don't go practice, they don't do anything. So they might be all right, but they're not their best because they didn't put any work into it. Just remember that kids are in their developmental years. It's so important. That's like the most critical time. As an adult, if you screw up and do silly diets, you'll mess yourself up. You may mess yourself up a little bit. But as a kid, you're developing. You can't go back and redo that stuff when the development doesn't happen correctly, okay? So just remember that. So I really feel like when it comes to childhood nutrition, it's really important. I'm just going to show you a couple other books. Hold on. Just a few books I'm going to show you. I always like showing you guys books. So I already showed you the Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. Another book that if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen, and it's the book The Big Fat Surprise. Why Butter, Meat, and Cheese Belong in a Healthy Diet. Okay. Also about 400-page book. Full of her going through the research that I've known about, where that shows that cholesterol and saturated fat do not cause heart disease. All that's a lie. There are scientists who've been saying that from the beginning, but they were silenced, just like with the C virus situation. The censorship in science is not new, okay? That book, very, very important, eye-opening book. Another really good book, Nourishing Fats. Why We Need Animal Fats for Health and Happiness by Sally Fallon. With a foreword by Nina, the woman who wrote this book, wrote a foreword in this book. And animal fats are not villains. They protect against disease and inflammation, support cell function and hormone production, and help your body make feel-good chemicals, okay? This book is very thorough, and it will explain the chemistry, how it, does those things. So very, very important book. Yeah, and then this is another book written by, This is another book written by Sally Fallon. the Nourishing Traditions book of baby and child care. This book is important because this book also goes through a lot of things I'm talking about. There are other books too. I have a bunch of books. It's on my Instagram. But goes through why, prenatal nutrition is so important in childhood nutrition in terms of preventing diseases and having health in the future and setting yourself up for good health in the future and developing to your best ability. Also a very good book. And so is this one, Real Food for Pregnancy. The Science and Wisdom of Optimal Prenatal Nutrition also does a very good job at doing that. And this book is written by Lily Nichols, okay? She's also on Instagram. And if you notice, what do you see on here? Eggs and cheese and salmon. Another good book, Restoring Your Digestive Health, okay? This is written by Jordan S. Rubin, who's a naturopathic doctor, and also Joseph Brasco, who's an MD gastroenterologist. Also, another thick. See, I've been reading these books, that's why I know these things. I'm telling you, I know what I'm talking about. But Jordan S. Rubin is the one that makes the Garden of Life probiotics, okay? I've known about him since maybe like 2003. And I've learned a lot about homeostatic soil organisms. I already knew that our biomes, our microbiomes, is our first line of defense against infectious disease. But he talks a lot about homeostatic soil organisms, which kill lipid-contained viruses. That includes the C virus, that includes herpes, HIV, HPV. Those are all lipid-contained viruses, and they are killed by many things, but one of them is homeostatic soil organisms, which are beneficial bacteria that secrete hydrogen peroxide. And we know hydrogen peroxide kills everything. So imagine if you have a lot of hydrogen peroxide producing bacteria in your gut. What does that do for your immune system? And I think it's like 80% of your immune system is in your gut or something. Okay. So those are some books that you can check out. I think I've said what I need to say for today. I think I've been talking long enough. Thank you for listening. Check out my other videos on my YouTube page, The Body Scientist 81. Check out what I post on my IG page, The Body Scientist. And if you learned something from this video, please share it, please like it, and I will see you all later. Yeah, there's a picture of all those books on my IG page. Just go through it, okay? Have a good day, people. Bye.